Solweta. In this lesson, we'll be setting up a reference sheet which we'll start referring to as our best friend. And then, after that, we will learn about the ablative of place where. So this reference sheet that I've made, this sheet should come to you to class, home, anytime that you need to do Latin work. Because this will have a lot of things that you need all centrally located in one spot. For instance, your present tense endings, or your imperfect tense endings, or your forms of sum that you have. So let's start filling this out. We're going to start by looking at the nouns side, okay? And then we're going to look at the first declension endings that we already know, and we're going to start by filling those in. A, AE, AE, AM, A. Make sure that that ablative singular has the long A over it. And in the plural, AE, ARUM, IS, AS, IS. So I, I, arum, is, as, is. Next, we'll flip this paper over to the other side, the verbs side, and we'll start filling in our present tense endings that we learned in chapter 2. So we'll get as present tense endings, o, as, at, amos, atis, ant. For our third chart, we'll have to let our eyes drift down from our present tense endings to our present forms of sum. There, we'll fill in sum es est, sumus estis sunt. So the first thing we need to answer is, what is a construction? And the answer is that a construction is just a particular way of framing some of the information that we already know. Specifically, the information of which case is used for which noun function. So constructions will always be phrased by saying the case name of the function name. So for example, we already know 3 constructions. The first one we know is the nominative of subject. This is just stating that we use the nominative case to express subjects. Nominative is a case, subject is a function. The next construction, which we already know, is the nominative of predicate nominative. Pause the video a moment and see if you can guess what our final construction that we already know is. If you guessed correctly, you said accusative of direct object, because direct objects go in the accusative case. Today, we'll learn one more construction, the ablative of place where. The place where something is its location. And so this says that anytime we have a location, the place where something is, we'll use the ablative case for that noun. Let's consider the examples. I am in Gaul, and they are in the roads. For the first one, as we learned in a previous lesson, first, let's make sure that we diagram these properly. We're going to add a new step to our diagramming now. We are going to begin putting parentheses around prepositional phrases. So for I am in Gaul, we would underline I as the subject, double underline am as the verb, and put parentheses around the prepositional phrase in Gaul. Then we would translate the phrase I am as sum, just as we learned in a previous lesson, and then we would translate in Gaul as in Gallia. Notice how Gallia is a location, and so it has to be the ablative case. Notice how it has that long A, which makes it ablative instead of nominative. Now, try to translate the second sentence on your own. Remember to diagram it first before you translate it. Pause now. If you diagrammed it correctly, you should have underlined they once as the subject and are twice as the verb. Meanwhile, you would parenthesize in the roads, because it is a prep phrase. Then, in our translation, we would translate they are as sunt, but we'll put it at the end of the sentence so that it means they are instead of there are. And then we would translate in the roads as in viis, plural, and ablative. One final note on this, the preposition in Latin is a bit strange because the preposition in Latin will translate to either the English in or on. Now that we've talked about constructions, we're going to go back to the nouns side of our sheet, and we're going to let our eyes travel down where we can fill in those constructions that we just put in our notes. So we'll fill in nominative of subject, nominative of predicate nominative, accusative of direct object, and ablative of place where. That's it for constructions, and I'll see you next time we're in class. Well, later.